Hello again, Steve here, and I wanted to talk a little bit today about getting people to be more effective. And first of all, I'm talking to me. This is self-talk. I'm trying to get myself to be more effective, but just to share the idea, some thoughts that came to mind. That's why I'm looking down once in a while. I'm just picking up these ideas that I threw on a piece of paper. So I think the first step is to realize that it is in our human nature to be able to grow, to become stronger in some way. Right? It goes back to the old analogy of going to a gym, right? You work long enough, we're going to grow some muscles, right? Now, just bear in mind, I'm not talking about dragging myself down some fantasy trail that some people have gotten the impression of from that book, The Secret, which is that, I don't believe in pixie dust. Never seen any. In fact, I like the old quote from Osho, which is kind of a funny quote. He says, I don't believe in anything. Somebody asked him, what do you believe about such and such? And he just paused and he says, I don't believe in anything. In other words, I like to have some reason and evidence. I don't like to just blindly believe in something. I don't believe that I can just meditate and have a mantra of some sort and something's going to come true. Uh, at least I've never experienced that. I don't put it out of the realm of possibility, but I'm going to stick now with what I've experienced to be true. And so what I mean by this is that it doesn't matter where we are. There's a lot of talk about IQ and all this sort of stuff. Okay, fair enough. We're all different. That makes sense, actually. I mean, for the longest time throughout my short lifetime, through school and as a child and all, growing up as an adult, what we were told is we're all different. That's why we're special, right? We're all different. We're unique. We're all unique. So is there a certain aspect of us which is not unique? Is my question. So yeah, we're all different. We're all going to be at different situations. So one of the first things to do is realize, to hell with comparing myself to anybody else. I got to compare myself from where I am and what it is that I want to achieve. What am I achieving and what do I want to achieve? That's the most important question. Those are the kind of important questions, right? So anywhere from, if I'm in a drunken stupor and have fallen down into a ditch, right? An improvement in time could be that I sober up a bit and get out of the ditch. I mean, that's objectively, at least appears to be a an improvement. That is, if I don't die in that stupor. Take it from that extreme all the way to an otherwise objectively successful individual. What I mean by that is most people would say, yeah, that's a successful person. Could be a successful businessman or businesswoman or whatever, or whatever their field is. Highly achieved, right? That person can improve as well. In other words, that person goes into the next project, the next launch or whatever it is, and has huge obstacles to overcome. The difference maybe between the person in the drunken stupor and that person is one person has more of a sort of a confidence that they can get through it. But that may not be true. I don't know. I mean, I could just be saying something like that. And this brings me back to a little story. That I was talking to a guy at an event a few weeks ago, and we were talking about how we have to challenge ourselves. We have to run into a little bit of resistance in order to grow. Like that businessman who's just launching that next thing, running into that challenge, to overcome that, is gonna sharpen him up maybe, right? And we talked about an elastic in this conversation that I was talking to this guy. We both agreed that an elastic band, when stretched out, and that stretching it out is kind of akin to us challenging ourselves, right? We got to stretch ourselves a little bit. We step out of our comfort zone, get into those challenge zones and so on. Try to stand up after the stupor, whatever, fall back down maybe. But stretch ourselves. We stretch the elastic band. The nature of the elastic band is it wants to return to its resting point. Isn't that what we want to do, right? Every time we run into a challenge, we feel it. It's like a resistance. We want to back off from that resistance. And after enough of it for a while, we actually want to go sit down and rest or whatever, right? That's like the elastic band. If you let go of it, what does it do? Boom, it snaps back in. But if we stretch it over time and over time and over time, in time it actually remains a little bit elongated. It has moved into a new normal in a way. And that's what happens with us over time. We actually, our resistance to the change begins to break down a bit. So now that change is okay. That becomes the new normal in a way. I think it's kind of a good analogy. So I guess coming right down to it, I mean, getting people to be more effective, and I'm talking to you, Steve. I would say the first thing we have to kind of do is, well, the first thing we have to do is realize that we can, stretch ourselves a bit. And then get the agreement, whether it's ourselves or anybody else, like if we're parenting or whatever, in order to get people to change, we have to get a buy-in from that person because, hey, nobody wants to experience pain just because somebody else is yelling at them. They like to experience a little bit of the resistance because they've agreed to do it. That's when it really works, right? Otherwise, every time they have a chance to shirk, they're going to shirk, right? So get the agreement, right? And then once the agreement is there, lay down the challenge, right? Say, look, this is what you got to do. This is what I see as a possibility, right? Do it, man. Do it, do it, do it. I see that in Toastmasters lots. When I challenge people, if they get the agreement that, if I get the agreement that, hey, you're here to learn, and then if I say, hey, you're doing a speech next week, right? Not, are you doing a speech next week? Can you do a speech next week? Hey, you're doing a speech next week, right? It's like, it's already done. There's more apt for them to, it's more likely that they're going to buy in and say, yeah, I'll do a speech next week, kind of thing. Whereas if it's like, hey, would you like to do a speech next week? It's kind of lame, right? We got to lay it down. We got to lay down the challenge. Once we get the agreement, lay the challenge down. I think it's a good advice for ourselves to become more effective. Realize that we can change. Get the agreement that we got to do that. We got to do the time. We got to put the effort in, right? And then lay down the challenge. And once we start stretching ourselves, we'll create that new set point. That new set point further along the line of where we want to go. Just a few points, anyways. Hope this is helpful. If you like what I'm doing, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.